Hello everyone, this is Old School with WhatTheBuck.net with the review of the Panthers' victory. We take a 31-16 decision over the Panthers at Raymond James Stadium to sweep the Panthers for the first time since I believe 2002, which is what we needed to do. When we came into this game, the concept was you're playing a team that legitimately, for the first time this season, despite what the press has been saying, which is we've only beaten teams that we should have beaten, and we've already covered that ad nauseum, this was a team, at this point, there's enough of a body of work thus far in the season that we could legitimately say we should beat, not only based on what they've done on the field, but also based on the amount of injuries that they've had on their side of the ball. I mean, they're coming in with Jimmy Clausen at quarterback, with a discussion about Tony Pike, their top two running backs out. We were going to face, Goodson at the tailback position. They've got injuries on the defensive side of the ball around Dan Connor. This is a team that was legitimately not just not very good, but also pretty beaten up. Now, the game, when we talked about it beforehand, we said we had to get in there and really kind of put our foot in the throat of a team that we should beat. And I don't think we really did that. Now, as a fan sitting in the stands, I didn't feel at any point as if the game was out of hand or that we were destroying them. I also never felt as if we were at much risk either. To see our Buccaneers offense put up 3 touchdowns in the first half was something I can't remember the last time I saw. And as I continue to watch these young skill position players on the Bucs team, I get more and more excited. Now, keys to the game that we talked about coming into this week were primarily around the running game and the pass defense, right? We talked about we've got to find a consistent running game. LeGarrette Blount last week in Atlanta ran tentatively. This week he looked a lot more authoritative when he ran. Now, we still gave up 100 yards to Goodson, a no-name back, but both backs, Goodson and LeGarrette Blount, ended up around 75 yards in the first half. Both defenses either tightened up in the second half or the game plan changed, because most of their yardage was in the first half. And I believe that when you look at the overall yardage collection, I think we ended up with 186 yards on the ground between our backs and our quarterback versus, I think, 118. So we ended up with a plus 68 on the rushing yards side. Josh Freeman with another outstanding game, not just in execution of the game plan, but also in managing the game, deciding when to run, how to move the change. I saw both on the offensive side and on the defensive side of the ball the ability for those units to step up, whether it's getting the timely 3 and out, whether it's creating a turnover. We were able to fight through a couple of turnovers on our side, won the muffed punt, which legitimately should probably not have been allowed. Our man Mack was pulled into the ball, but these things happen. Then LeGarrette Blount with a fumble again. Now, LeGarrette Blount later in the game looked like he may have had another fumble that was overruled on the challenge because it was inconclusive. But at this point, we may want to start worrying a little bit about ball security with LeGarrette. Despite the fact that he runs very hard, there does seem to be a little bit of a trend with him letting the ball go. Though on the incredibly acrobatic touchdown run, he managed to stick the ball out there and hold on to it all the way through the continuation through the ground. Now, Mike Williams, slow, quiet first half, ended up busting out in the second half. This is a guy who every time he catches the ball seems to be able to make someone miss. And it really has been is finally silencing some people who were already calling him a bust after week 4 and really showing some stuff on tape. Michael Spurlock, mercurial. In Atlanta, he probably saved our bacon to make that a real game, even though we managed to lose it at the end. This week looked very tentative. Our return game, our special teams in general, did not look very good this week. So the other keys to the game that we had talked about coming into it was to force the Panthers to throw the ball. We didn't really do that. The defense, once again, was not able to impose their will. I think we ended up with 2 sacks, neither one by a defensive lineman. We had a number of pressures. Gerald McCoy continues to improve, but we're still not getting home. I thought that this was not a particularly good game for Styles White. I know that Steve White on passingonthegame.blogspot.com does a great job of analyzing every one of the defensive linemen, and he felt that Styles had a decent game. I saw what looked like some loafs, and I'm going to talk to Steve to see if he saw them too. Some opportunities where guys were giving up on plays that they could have gone through. Now, not giving up the way Albert Haynesworth did last night, laying on the ground for the rest of a 10-second play, but not showing that motor from whistle to whistle that we need to see. In the column of, hey, look who had a good game, though, Sean Jones had his best game as a Buck, I think. Cody Grimm continues to impress. Elbert Mack and Biggers both had bad games in all aspects. We had one decent hit, I believe, out of Elbert Mack, but in general, they were liabilities. Aqib Talib played very, very well throughout. So did Rondé Barber. We're seeing some good play by Barrett Ruud as well, filling. And on the blitzes, which we seem to execute a number more of this week, maybe partially due to the number of injuries, the amount of 3-man fronts we had to go into, we saw Barrett Ruud actually getting home on the blitzes, getting through there, causing some pressures, which are causing some pass breakups as well. So the last one was to try and get a sack. We ended up getting 2 sacks, but they weren't necessarily the way we would like to see sacks accumulated. Kellen Winslow was a focus coming into the game. The Bucs said they were going to focus on getting K2 the ball. They did. He led all receivers with 6 receptions, 65 yards, and a hell of a touchdown catch. That play in general, if you look at the way that play set up, was was a microcosm of what's going right on the offensive side of the ball. Josh Freeman made the right read with the way the safeties shifted. Kellen Winslow on the skinny post, an incredibly well-thrown ball with a great catch with bracket coverage. I believe it was Beeson underneath. Maybe it had been Godfrey on top, but just a great play. I think there was pass interference on the play as well, but Kellen made the catch, so it was immaterial. In general, very excited about the skill position guys. We did this without Sammy Stroud. We did it with Larson in the lineup. Fane came back, and James Lee on the side. When you look at the penalty side, and Ross said this in the post-game conference, and by the way, that wasn't picking my nose, that was scratching my mustache, which I'm growing for the Movember movement, which is to generate funds for prostate cancer awareness. At any rate, in the press conference, I believe there were 8 penalties that were pre-snap. We had Larson with, I believe, 3 false starts. We had a couple of illegal shifts. These are things that can be worked on when they go back to the lab and really figure out what's going on. The false start thing, you can't have your guards jumping off. You're right next to the ball. You know what's going on. You know your count. On the illegal shifts, some of this is a matter of either urgency on the ball or just lack of attention to detail, and we got to work on it. The one on Ben I thought was a pretty dicey call, or pretty questionable call, but those things do happen. Cadillac Williams reminded people why he's important to this team. Great blitz pickups and the draw play at the end where he showed some skills, as well as the screen pass. And I've got to do something that I don't do often, which is give some tremendous credit to Greg Olson. Well called offensive game. I generally don't like the way Olson calls games. I'm not a coach, so who the hell cares what I think? But that's been my opinion consistently, and I was very impressed with the game plan. Now, I'm not sure how much of that is the benefit of having a running game that's working, right? When you can go to play action, you can hit Gilmore 3 times in the game. I don't know how many yards he ended up with. 52 yards for John Gilmore with a 29-yard catch. That's ridiculous. I mean, Gilmore's a quality tight end, but typically a blocking tight end. But you turned him into a weapon, and that's outstanding. So all in all, a lot of things to be excited about. I'd like to see this team continue to get healthy. We've got to do something on the defensive side of the ball. We got San Francisco coming up this week. We'll do a preview video for that a little bit later. But as a Bucs fan, it's hard not to be happy with the record. It's a damn shame we let one slip away in Atlanta, but we got a chance to go to San Francisco. Then we got a really great test with Baltimore, and then we get Atlanta back at home. And by God, the race for 10 continues. Great work, great effort, and for a Bucs fan, again, this is a surprise to have this much excitement in this season. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Rate it up, let me know what you think, and we'll be back for a preview video on the 49ers a little bit later this week.